In the quiet moments, that's where I'll find a little room to breathe, leave it all behind. Give me room to breathe, I need some time to heal my heart, to clear my mind. Gonna love myself, yeah, I believe in the power of me. Just give me room to breathe.
Great new day to all my self-care family and friends. Welcome back to the Room to Breathe podcast. I am your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so happy that you made space to be here today. Now, before we get into today's episode, do me a quick favor. If you're feeling our vibes, go ahead and show us some love. You can do so by tapping the screen, like, comment, and make sure you share this out with someone who may need a little healing energy today. And if this is your first time here or you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that follow button. Subscribe to our channel so that way you're always tapped in when a new episode drops. I also wish to personally invite you to check out our digital home at theselfcareclub.org, where you'll find everything from affirmative apparel to motivational merch and free resources to nourish your growth and remind you that you're supported every step of the way. Just know that you don't have to do this alone. We are in this together, healing in community, growing one breath, one moment, one day at a time. So today, I urge you to give yourself permission to pause, to reflect, and to make space for peace, for growth, and most importantly, for you. And remember, if anything in today's episode hits home, be sure to drop a green heart in the chat. That is our way of saying that I'm healing, I'm growing, and I'm showing up for me. Now, let's get ready to breathe, reflect, and grow together. Today, I just want to begin with a simple prayer. And that prayer is that I hope you heal from the things that you don't talk about. Because let's be real, so many of us are carrying wounds in silence. We've learned how to smile with our broken hearts. We've perfected saying, I'm fine, while fighting private battles that nobody else sees. We have convinced ourselves that if we just don't talk about it, it won't hurt so much. Maybe if we bury it deep enough, nobody will notice. Maybe even we can forget it, right? Spark Motive, Cat, welcome in. But silence doesn't equal healing. Okay? It's, silence just means that nobody knows how heavy your heart really is. And, those unspoken things, they don't disappear. They live inside of us. They live in our bodies, our triggers, our relationships. And they become, something that just kind of comes out when we don't even realize it. Let me tell you guys a story. I can remember a season in my life where I thought that silence was strength. I thought that if I just stayed quiet about the things that I was going through, that, that made me strong. And, I thought that meant that I was keeping it all together. But what I didn't realize is that silence was eating me alive. I was smiling in rooms, where my spirit just felt like it was suffocating. I was laughing with friends while crying myself to sleep at night. And then one day, I remember looking in the mirror and just not even recognizing myself. I thought, when did I become so good at disappearing into my own silence? And that's when I learned that silence can be both an armor and a prison, because it protects us, but it also locks us away. And, family, that's why I kind of wanted to talk about this today, because I know what it feels like to carry pain that you've never spoken out loud, to carry grief, shame, trauma so long that it starts to just feel normal to you. But I want you guys to hear me when I say this. You don't have to carry that forever. Healing doesn't always begin, with shouting your story from the rooftops. Sometimes it just starts quietly with a whisper to yourself, a journal entry, a prayer, right? Sometimes it just starts with you giving yourself permission to stop pretending that the pain doesn't exist. So, as we step into this conversation, I want you to pause and take a deep breath with me. Inhale through your nose, hold it, and slowly let go. Again, inhale, exhale. Now, I want you to whisper to yourself that I give myself permission to heal from even the things that I don't talk about. I give myself permission to heal from even the things that I don't talk about, because that's where we begin. Today, we're going to start by discussing the wounds that we don't name, right? We know that silence doesn't mean absence. Just because you never said it out loud doesn't mean that it's not there. And, think about it. How many of us are walking around with pain that has never been spoken? I mean, childhood hurts that we brushed under the rug because no one around us knew how to handle them. Welcome in, Kale. Grief that we never gave ourselves space to process because life demanded that we be strong. Welcome in, Brooke. The heartbreaks we pretended we were over because everyone else seemed to move on, so we felt like we had to as well. Let me paint you a picture. Maybe you grew up in a house where you felt invisible. Nobody ever asked you how you were really doing. And now as an adult, you find yourself people pleasing, terrified of, being abandoned if you say how you really feel. Maybe you lost someone you loved, but your family didn't talk about grief. So you learned how to swallow your tears and show up like nothing happened. Maybe you carry shame from something that was done to you, something that you had no control of. But because you've never spoken it, it sits inside of you, whispering lies to you about your own worth. Or maybe it's that heartbreak, right? That relationship that left you shattered. But you told everyone you were fine because you didn't want to look weak. And now every time someone gets close, that unspoken wound whispers. Don't trust them. Don't let them in. Welcome in, Twista and PG, right? Sig B's. Family, those are silent wounds. And silent wounds don't vanish just because they're unspoken. They echo. They echo in our choices, in our fears, in the way that we love, in the way that we pull back when things feel too vulnerable. But here's the thing. Unspoken pain has a sneaky way of becoming our identity. You start believing this is just who I am. But no, that's not who you are. That's your wounds talking. There's this quote that I carry with me, and it simply says, what you don't heal, you repeat. What you don't release, you will carry. So if we never name it, if we never face it, it shows up again and again, right? It shows up in different people, in different situations, different seasons. It just becomes a cycle. I want you guys to think, what's one thing that you've never said out loud, but is still living inside of you? I just want you to think about it. You don't have to put it in the chat. Think about one thing that you've never said out loud, that is still taking up residence inside of you. Don't rush. Don't judge. Just notice what comes up. Maybe it's a memory. Maybe it's a name. Maybe it's a moment that still hurts, still stings. Drop a green heart in the chat if you can see it. And listen, for those of you who, get nothing right away, that's okay. Sometimes our wounds are so tucked away that we've numbed ourselves to them. So if it doesn't come up right away, it's okay. Healing isn't about forcing it. It's about creating space for the honesty to rise to the surface. And let me say this for you. Naming the wound doesn't mean reliving the trauma. Naming it is simply acknowledging this happened, this hurt me, and this is still with me. Welcome in, Khadijah. This, is simply an acknowledgement that is something that is so powerful because silence loses its grip when you shine a light on it. When you bring awareness to a situation, that silence slowly starts to lose its grip. Today, we get to say that we honor our silent wounds by giving them a name. These wounds are not our identity, they are our history, and we are healing. That's the first step, naming it. And now that we've named these wounds, right? Now that we understand that naming it is our very first step in healing, I want to first talk about why we don't talk about them, right? Because there has to be a reason why we don't talk about these things, right? And yes, naming it is the first step, but understanding why we've been silent is just as powerful. There are so many reasons that we keep our pain locked away. Some of them protective, but many of them are just survival instincts that we learned as kids, right? We learned how to navigate. Maybe you were taught that your feelings didn't matter, that your hurt was too inconvenient for anyone else. Maybe someone once told you, stop crying, it's no big deal. Hey, Cynthia. Or why are you making such a scene? And so from that moment, you learn silence keeps me safe. Maybe you stayed quiet because you were afraid of judgment, right? Afraid that if anyone knew, really knew, that they wouldn't understand, or worse, that they would maybe leave you. That fear of being abandoned can make you carry pain alone for years. Maybe shame has been your quiet companion. And shame can be sneaky, right? It whispers, this is your fault. You should have done better. You knew better. You should have handled it. And so when shame sits next to fear, silence feels like it's your only option. Maybe it's cultural or generational, right? Maybe in your home or your community, you were taught that trauma and grief are private, something that you keep locked behind closed doors. Even though you want to speak, even though your heart is begging you to release it, your body is bound by these invisible rules of your community or your household. Maybe you stayed quiet because it just felt easier, right? Easier to smile, easier to go through the motions, easier to pretend that nothing hurt, easier for you to survive. And see, I get it. I've been there, right? I've held my silence like a shield, telling myself if I don't speak it, maybe it won't hurt so much. I've laughed when I wanted to scream. I smiled when I wanted to cry. I buried so much grief that I didn't even recognize it as my own anymore. But here's the thing: silence might protect you for the moment, but long term, it suffocates you. It builds walls between you and your freedom. It builds walls between you and the people who might really see you. And that's why this matters. Understanding why we've stayed silent is a big part of our healing. It's part of recognizing, that it wasn't weakness, it wasn't failure, it wasn't because you didn't care, it was simply out of survival. So again, we have to understand why we stay silent. And once we understand our why, we then have to forgive ourselves for surviving in silence, knowing that we are safe to speak our truth when we're ready. And no one else can tell you when it's time. That's something that you'll know. You'll know when you're ready. Because again, healing doesn't mean rushing to tell your story. Healing doesn't mean that, everybody else gets a front row seat to your pain. Healing simply means knowing that when the time is right, your voice, your truth matters. And here's something beautiful, guys. Silence can transform. That same silence that you once held captive, right? The same silence that held you trapped now can become your sacred space. A space to reflect, a space to process, a space to get strong enough to finally release what you've been hiding for so long. I want you to remember this as we move forward into this conversation, because the reason that you didn't talk before does not define your future. It does not define your worth. It was simply a means of survival. But now you can begin to step into your freedom. And it's important for us to understand that, we need to step into this freedom. And I refer to mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, right? Because ultimately our body is keeping score. And so now that we've named the wounds and we explored, why we stay silent, we gotta get into the conversation that we often overlook, which is our bodies, right? Shonda, welcome in. Because the truth is, our bodies never forget. Even when our mouths stay quiet, our bodies speak. They hold on to grief, to shame, to heartbreak, to trauma that we didn't have the words for. They carry the weight of all the things that we didn't say. Think about it. Maybe you have tension in your shoulders that shows up every time you think about a certain memory. Maybe your stomach knots up when someone says something that reminds you of your past. Maybe your chest feels heavy. And, sometimes you can't even put the words to why. Family, that's your body keeping score. I can remember a season in my life where I had carried a deep wound for years, one that I never spoke out loud. Hey, yummy time. I noticed that my body felt tense all the time, that my chest would tighten, my head would ache, and I couldn't sleep at night. I didn't realize that my body was trying to tell me something. It was screaming in its own language. This pain exists. You've buried it for too long. We've got to understand that our bodies remember the things that our mouths won't say. Our bodies are loyal like that. It never forgets. So what do we do with that? Well, first we acknowledge it. We start listening to it. Thank you for sharing. We pay attention to the tension, the anxiety, the fatigue, the ache, right? We notice when it surfaces. Because when that happens, that's our body calling us to heal. Let's try this little exercise wherever you are. I want you to close your eyes if you can, and I want you to take a deep, slow breath in. Hold it for a moment. Now fully exhale. Again, inhale, hold it, and exhale. Now, I want you to place your hand over the part of your body that feels heavy or tense. Breathe in, exhale. Again, breathe in, exhale. Now, that part of your body that you were holding, I want you to feel the weight there. And I want you to whisper to it that I see you, I honor you, and you don't have to carry this alone. Breathe in, exhale. I see you, I honor you. You don't have to carry this alone. One more time. Breathe in. Let it go. I see you. I honor you. And you don't have to carry this alone. And as you guys continue to focus on your breathing, I want you to feel that breath moving through your body. It's not magic, it's simply acknowledgement. And acknowledgement is our first step towards release. We're going to take a final breath in. Let it go. And when it's comfortable for you, I want you to open your eyes, adjust back to your surroundings. And remember, you can do that at any time. Sit with it. When your body is bringing something up, when you're feeling that tension and that pain, I want you to just take a moment to pause, to breathe through it. And the beautiful thing about our bodies, you guys, is that it also remembers joy. Our body just doesn't keep score on the pain and the hurt and the trauma. The body remembers joy and love and freedom. So when we start releasing the things that we've held in silence, our bodies respond. Tension starts to melt. Sleep becomes easier. You are welcome. Our energy returns. Even your posture can shift, right? You start to sit a little more upright, a little more open. And here's the truth that I want you guys to hold. You are not broken because your body carries pain. You are human. You are alive. You are becoming. Another practice that I love is journaling, right? Journaling through my body. I write down where I feel tension, fear, sadness. And then next to it, I give myself permission to be seen. I give myself permission to release. And you guys watch what happens when you start to name it physically as well as emotionally. Remember, this healing journey that we're on is not just mental or emotional. It is also physical. It is spiritual. And it simply starts with us noticing and honoring and listening. Your body is speaking, but are you willing to hear it? Our bodies are our ally. Our bodies remember, and our bodies are ready to release. We have to understand that we are safe now. We are whole. We are healing. We have permission to release, to let go. And that right there is a gift in itself, right? Realizing that the silent wounds that we've carried for decades can begin, to find that space for us to let go, right? These wounds that we've carried, we can find room, right? Space to breathe when we start to listen to our bodies and let it go. So again, you guys, we've named it, right? We've named our wounds. We've explored our silence. We've listened to what our bodies are holding. So the next step, and how we safely release these things, the next step is learning where and how, right? Where and how to safely release these things. Because not every space is safe for our truth. And that's okay, right? Healing doesn't mean telling everyone everything. Healing just simply means that you find space to honor your story. And safe spaces come in many forms. They can be people. You said rewind. Let me run it back. Let me run it back for you. Okay. We've named our wounds, right? We've explored our silence. Hey, Sherelle. We've listened to what our bodies have been holding on to. So the next step is learning where and how to safely release things. Because every space is not safe for our truth. And that's okay. Right? It's absolutely okay. Because healing doesn't mean telling everyone everything. Healing simply means that we find spaces that honor our story. And so, as I was saying, safe spaces come in many forms. Hey, Spark Motive. They can be people, they can be places, or even moments of stillness with yourself. Sometimes you got to be your own safe space. Exactly. Every space may not be safe. So let's start with people, right? Think about it. Who in your life makes you feel seen and heard? Who doesn't rush you? Who doesn't judge you or give you advice before you're ready for it? Yes. Right? Think of that person. Maybe it's a friend, a mentor, a therapist, a life coach, or even just a community of like minded souls, right? That is a safe space. And I promise you, it matters more than you think to have at least one person in your life like that. One person who listens and they don't judge, right? They don't rush you to get to the heart of the emotion. They don't give you advice before you ask for it. Everyone needs someone like that. And if there isn't a person, that's okay too, right? Some of us have yet to link up with our people, and that's okay. Sometimes the safest space is your own. right? And when I say your own, I mean your journal. My journal was my first safe space, guys. My prayers, right? My quiet corner where I could just whisper my truth without anybody interrupting me. Even, speaking to God or the universe or the part of yourself that has been silent for years can be your first step in releasing. So again, don't feel upset or ashamed if you don't have your person yet or your people yet. You journal. Brooke says I need to learn to journal. Brooke, start with a brain dump, right? Yeah. As Shonda said, sometimes you just got to get it out your head. You grab a journal or a notebook or whatever it is, and you just start writing. No rhyme, no reason, no nothing. You just start writing. And as you continue to write, you just keep going until you got nothing else to write, and you close it and you go on about your day. The next day or night, pull it out, start writing, whatever it is. We tend to overthink journaling. You can grab a journal that even comes with a prompt. It'll ask you one simple question, and you just get to answer that question. Some people get overwhelmed by the question because now they're stuck thinking of the answer. Again, I just encourage people get some paper and do a brain dump. Let it all out. It doesn't have to make sense. You ain't got to worry about punctuation. Who cares about it? Doesn't matter. You just dump it all out. And you guys, sometimes safe spaces are rituals, right? So you can make this a whole ritual. Hey, Blue, and maybe light a candle before you start journaling. Sit outside in the nature, right? Do a mindful walk, right? Walking while reflecting. Make space in your day to simply acknowledge your story without expectation or judgment. Thank you. And I think the thing that I want to be very clear about is that speaking your truth doesn't have to be loud. You don't have to post it online. You don't have to confront every person who hurt you. Sometimes just naming it quietly is enough. Sometimes naming it quietly for yourself is the first step before you ever share it with anyone else. No fear, no doubt. Welcome in. Again, another activity wherever you are, right? Take a deep breath in, place your hand on your heart, exhale. Again, inhale, exhale. You are allowed to speak your truth. You are allowed to release. You are allowed to be seen. Inhale, exhale. Repeat after me. I am allowed to speak my truth. I am allowed to release. I am allowed to be seen. Inhale, exhale. Now think about one safe space in your life right now. A person, practice, a moment where you could begin to give your voice the opportunity to speak on what it's been holding on to. Maybe that's you journaling tonight. Maybe it's a short phone call to a trusted friend. Maybe it's a private prayer. I want you to imagine yourself releasing just a fraction of the burden that you've been carrying in this space. Feel what that relief could look like. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And family, here's the thing. You don't have to rush it, right? That's the beauty of this. Healing happens in your timing, in your own timing, not on anyone else's schedule. You are not weak for taking small steps. You are brave for even acknowledging them. Your story deserves space, but you have to honor your healing journey. You have to understand that you are safe to speak when you are ready. Welcome in, Mr. T. Remember, family, finding safe spaces to speak is a revolutionary act of self-care, especially if you've been silenced for years, right? It's about reclaiming your voice. It's telling the world, or at least yourself, that your story matters. And when we begin to create these spaces, those unspoken wounds that we've been carrying start to loosen their grip. I want you guys to remember that you don't have to speak your whole story at once. You don't have to explain yourself to everyone. You just simply start creating safe space for you to live in your truth. And that space begins with healing. And when I say healing, we also have to understand that sometimes healing happens without an apology. And I know this is a tough one, right? This is one of the hardest truths about healing, right? Because sometimes, you know, the people who hurt us never apologize, right? Sometimes they never acknowledge the pain that they caused us. And that can leave us feeling stuck and angry, resentful, even hopeless sometimes. But here's the thing. Your healing does not depend upon their apology. Your freedom does not depend on them admitting that they were wrong. Waiting for someone else to say, I'm sorry, can keep you trapped in the past for years, even decades. DJ Princess, welcome in. Rich Risings to you. It's too heavy. It's too heavy to carry that for a lifetime. And yeah, you know, I've had moments where I wanted someone to admit their wrongdoing, right? To just tell me that they were sorry, to validate my pain. And when it didn't come, I felt stuck, right? I felt unheard, unseen. I felt like my healing could not begin until they acknowledged what they did to me. But then I realized my healing is my responsibility, not theirs. And my healing actually begins the moment I realize what they did to me and how what they did to me has no hold on me, right? This healing is mine for the taking. I mean, think about it, right? Think about when you waited for someone else to apologize. It's like you give them control over your peace. Hmm. You know, when you keep sitting there waiting for someone else to apologize, it's like you're handing them the keys to your emotional freedom. And that's not fair to you. That's not fair to the person that you are becoming. So, what does it mean to heal without their apology? Well, it starts by acknowledging our pain, right? You don't have to minimize it. You don't have to forgive them immediately. You don't even have to speak to them. You just acknowledge it. This hurt me. This was wrong. This felt painful. but I am allowed to release it. I don't need your permission to release it. I can choose to let it go. It means we release the need for validation because you don't need their validation to know that the experience was real. I don't need you to confirm with me what I felt. You don't need their I'm sorry to prove your story factual. Your story is valid simply because it happened to you. Hello, welcome in. And understand that choosing your peace over their admission, yeah, it's probably the hardest part, but it's doable, you guys. Choosing to let go of resentment, even when they've never apologized. They have yet to even admit what they've done to you. It does not mean that you condone what happened. It doesn't mean that you forgot it. It doesn't mean that you want them back in your life or you're going to resume allowing them access to your life. It just simply means that you are no longer willing to let their lack of apology steal your peace. So forgive them without it, right? Forgiveness isn't always about them. Sometimes it's about you. It's about freeing yourself from carrying the weight of their mistakes. Forgiveness without an apology is a gift that you give to yourself. It's saying that I'm choosing my healing, even if you never acknowledge my pain. I'm choosing my healing, even if you never say I'm sorry. I release the need for your apology. I honor my pain. I'm choosing my peace. And yeah, you may feel anger, you may feel grief, you may feel mixed emotions, and all of that is okay. Healing is not about denying your feelings, it's about simply holding them without letting them define your life. Thank you. Welcome in, Queen Majesty. I want you guys to remember this. Your healing is bigger than their accountability. Your healing is bigger than their accountability. Your joy, your freedom, your peace. These are all yours for the taking. They are yours to claim. Even if they never apologize, you are allowed to heal. Even if they never validate your pain, you are allowed to love yourself through it. Absolutely. I'm so happy that you're here. And you guys, here's the truth. The moment that you choose to heal without their apology, a weight lifts off of you. You begin to breathe differently. You begin to walk differently. You start to reclaim the energy that was trapped in resentment and anger and waiting. We are healing. We are healing even without their apology. You get to say, I am free. I am whole. I am enough. So, yeah, some people may never say sorry. Some doors may never close the way that we wanted them to, but your healing doesn't have to wait. Your life doesn't pause. You are bigger than their inaction. You are stronger than their refusal. And you are ready to step up fully into your peace. So again, family, we've named the wounds. We've explored why we stay silent. We've listened to what our bodies have to say, right? We found safe spaces to speak or at least begin speaking, whether that be our journal, our prayer, or someone we trust. And we've explored healing without an apology, right? Thank you so much. Now let's talk about what it looks like living in our healing, right? Living in our healing. Living in our healing does not mean that we forget the pain. We don't forget, right? It doesn't mean that, you erase the scars. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect or always, show up in the healed version of you for the world. Living the healing means that you take what you've uncovered, what you've acknowledged, what you've released, and you start to integrate that into your everyday life. And again, I say this to you guys, I feel like every day. Healing is messy, right? Healing is not linear. So it's going to look different for each and every one of us. You will have your days where the pain resurfaces. You will have your moments when old triggers pop up. That's okay. That's human. That's growth. All right. I want you to think about this. Every single time that you notice your old wounds trying to creep back in, every time that you get that familiar tightness, that anxiety, that shame, it's actually just a reminder. But it's a reminder that you are in process. It's a reminder that you are making progress. A reminder that you are noticing, that you are awake, that you are alive, that you are still here in spite of that trigger, that trauma. And now here's the magic. You get to choose how you respond to those reminders. You get to choose whether you shrink back into silence or whether you breathe through it, acknowledge it, let it teach you, right? That's what living in our healing looks like. So today I want you to ask yourself, what can I do today to honor this part of me and release it into healing? It might be a journal entry. It might be you, like I said, calling a trusted friend. It might be you setting a boundary that you've been avoiding. But whatever it is, understand that every small action is powerful. I want you to remember these three things as you begin to live in your healing. All right. Number one, permission. Can everybody type permission in the chat for me? Permission. Thank you. Everybody type permission in the chat, please. Because I want you to know that you are allowed to feel. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to release in your own time. So we don't need someone else to give us permission, right? Because we know that we are allowed to. We get to. Next in the chat, I want you guys to write compassion. Compassion. And when I say compassion, I want us to remember that you are human, right? I don't think I have any androids in the house today. You are human. You are doing the best you can with what you know and what you've been given, right? So we have to begin to show ourselves compassion. So we give ourselves permission. You're an android, Mr. T. Got you. Well, you're going to learn how to feel today, sir. We've given ourselves permission to heal. Now we're showing ourselves compassion. while we heal. The last step is consistency. Add consistency to the chat. Consistency. And I say consistency because that means healing isn't a one-time event, right? It is a daily practice. We get to do this over and over again, right? Little moments repeated over time that create transformation. Consistency is key. So again, you guys, if you don't take away anything else from this conversation, take away those three words: permission, compassion, and consistency. Healing doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's in the small choices that we make every day. But make no mistake, every choice, every breath, every acknowledgement is a victory. You are living in the healing, even when it doesn't feel like it. Thank you. Even when it doesn't feel like it. And so I want us, to begin to integrate this healing. Thank you, Buddha. Welcome in, bro. I want us to begin to integrate this healing into our everyday life, right? I want us to put this into action because healing is not going to be just about those moments of reflection or journaling. Healing is going to be about the integration, bringing it into the way that we move and how we speak and how we show up for ourselves every day. Think about it. You can release a memory, acknowledge a wound, and sit in silence. But if you don't integrate it, then the pain just simply has a way of showing back up, right? It shows up in your reactions, in your relationships, and your decisions. So integration is what makes the healing real. And, here's what it looks like in practice, right? There's something called intentional awareness. And intentional awareness is where, you notice your triggers. You notice when old wounds pop up. Maybe it's in a word that someone says. Maybe it's a memory that you didn't expect. And so instead of pushing it down and pretending that it's gone, you pause. You acknowledge it. You say to yourself, I see you. I see you over there, old wound, right? You are a part of my past, but you don't define my present. Because again, awareness is power. So we start by being intentionally aware. Then we begin to create daily rituals for our healing, right? Incorporating small practices into our day. Maybe it's just 5 minutes of deep breathing in the morning. Maybe it's getting your journal and writing down one feeling that you want to release. Maybe it's saying a simple affirmation before you enter a meeting or a tough conversation. It could be ending your day with gratitude for the small wins, right? Because rituals, even small ones, create a rhythm of presence. They remind your body, your mind, your spirit that healing is not a one-time event, it's a lifestyle. We are making lifestyle changes, right? It could be you setting boundaries, right? Putting boundaries in place as a form of self-care. Integration looks like you saying no to the things that drain you and yes to the things that nurture you. I think that boundaries are by far one of the most powerful tools for integrating healing into our daily life. Had it not been for boundaries, I cannot tell y'all where I would be, right? Because our boundaries tell the world and ourselves that our time, our energy, and our heart are sacred. Boundaries tell us that we matter. So consider, integrating, those boundaries into your life to make space for your healing. It means tapping in with your community, connecting with others, because we don't have to carry this hurt alone. I encourage you to find your people. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is finding your community, finding your people, those people who see you, hear you, and encourage your growth. Healing grows faster when we share it with those who respect our journey. It could be a friend, a mentor, a therapist, a life coach, or even your self-care club community. We can be your people, right? We're already here together with this common, denominator of wanting to heal, right? So we've already been like-minded in a particular area. This can be your community. And lastly, every single step that you take, I want you to celebrate your progress. This is not about perfection. I don't care how it looks, how messy it is, right? Remember, this is not a race. We've established that healing is messy, right? Some days feel heavy, some days feel light, but every single choice that we make honors, every single choice that we make to honor ourselves, to release, to breathe, that's progress, right? So we should celebrate it, even if it feels small, even if it doesn't look like your neighbor's healing. Don't worry about it. Honor it, celebrate it. Living and integrating your healing is about showing up for yourself consistently, lovingly, and intentionally. It's about making your quiet moments of reflection a ripple into the way that you move throughout the world. And here's the beauty of it. As you begin to integrate your healing, you begin to live differently, right? You begin to love differently. You begin to trust yourself differently. Your life becomes a living testament, even, okay? The things that you don't talk about can transform you into someone stronger, wiser, more whole, more complete, right? So I want you to carry this with you. Integration is the bridge between surviving and thriving. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired surviving, right? I recognize that there is more life, worth living. So I'm tired of surviving. So I'm going to cross that bridge into thriving, because I know that, integrating is where these silent wounds that I've been carrying by myself for far too long find their voice, and where our healing becomes real, tangible, and unshakable. So I want you to embrace your healing journey. Again, healing's not linear. That's something that I cannot say enough. It doesn't happen on schedule. Like I said, some days you're going to feel like you're soaring. Some days you're going to feel like you're carrying the weight of the world. That's okay, because we're human. What matters is that you continue to show up for yourself, that you continue to name the pain, continue to speak when it's safe, continue to honor your body. You continue to forgive, to release, to integrate. You continue to live in your healing, even if no one else sees it. Honor your journey. Release the pain that you've held on to. Know that you are healing. Know that you are free. I want to thank you guys for trusting me with your heart today. I want to thank you guys for creating space to sit with your pain, your growth, and your transformation. I want to remind you that your journey matters, that your stories matter, that your healing matters. Now, before we part ways, let me leave you all with a little love and light. As always, I encourage you to keep breathing through the highs, through the lows, and every moment in between. I want you to keep choosing peace, even if it feels just out of reach. And know that here at the Self Care Club, you are always seen, always valued, and you will always be supported. So don't be afraid to take up space, to speak your truth, and to make a little room for you to breathe. I love each and every one of you to life, and I am praying that your day is not just amazing, but aligned, intentional, and yes, on purpose, filled with purpose. This has been another Room to Breathe podcast, and I can't wait to connect with you all again soon.